It's 10:40. Welcome back. Please take your seats. Hope you had a nice short break. Right, so the next session, we've got the wonderful, one of the most authentic people I know, Fiona Dunlop, to lead the next session. And I was really interested to see that you're a graduate of the English UK Delta.
Oh yes, one of the.
So Fiona's session, you can see the title up there, Managing Your Team's Professional Development. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fascinating. And handing over to you, Fiona, for the session.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks to everyone. Thanks everyone online for joining as well. Lovely to see you. I don't know where to stand. I feel as if I should be facing the wall with my shorts on. This is the first time I've done this fully clothed for a long time. So lucky you. Thank you very much, everyone, for having me. Oh, Siobhan's telling me where to stand. And thank you as well, English UK, for inviting me. I've got loads to say, so I'm going to go really, really quickly today. And I've got heavy slides. I'm going to apologise for it in advance, but hopefully the slides will give a bit of a written record for those who want it. What I'm going to talk about is managing your team's professional development and well-being in turbulent times. A long, long title. And I first started thinking about this when I was putting something together for the IH Managers Conference earlier this year. And it really got me thinking. This in itself is a really useful exercise in reflection for me in what we have done as a school, what I have done, what my team has done, what the industry has done, what we've achieved in such a terrible, terrible 2 years. So if you don't take anything else away from today, I suggest that you maybe go through this exercise yourself, because we've all had very different journeys in the last couple of years, but with a lot of similarities, and hopefully a lot of this will resonate with you, and you recognise that here we still are, ELT's coming back, and we can start to smile a bit more again. Now it's not working. Who's been fiddling with my slides? What I want to look at are three different things. So what we did, what action we took. I'm going to do that very quickly because, as I say, I'm limited for time, and it's a good exercise for all of us to do ourselves. I'm going to focus on four main areas that seem to have come out of this in my experience, and then some practical tips for a successful well-being approach to CPD. What's going to stick for all of us, because I'm sure you'll agree we've all learned and developed in whatever roles we're in the past 2 years, and it's not been something that's been planned and out of choice. It's been suddenly been thrown in. And just to take you back, because 2 years ago, and the last 2 years, maybe now that you're in a similar position to me and really kind of upscaling the schools that we're in again and rushing towards the summer, we've maybe slightly forgotten. But here are some of my memories of the last 2 years. I'm sure you can relate to some of them. Sending friends flowers, getting flowers, having Zoom dinners, drinking champagne, taking photos of sunsets. How many sunsets do I have in my phone over the last 2 years? How boring, and they all look the same sun, isn't it? Goodness. Buying a lockdown puppy. Yes, I fell for that one. She's now a big monster of a dog. And then all of the online things that we got involved in so quickly. All of these things were our lives. But what I want to really look at, and I've just got this as a big list, and I've got lots of lists here to show you what we have done. And I'm going to look at my notes as well. As I said, I've so much to say because we've done so much, and well done to us. So these are some of the things that we have done. I mean, Louise was mentioning HR. A lot of people in the audience will be academic managers. And so parts of HR would have been fairly new to us. And then suddenly we were thrown into changing contracts, negotiating contracts, possibly dealing with very painful things like redundancies, dealing with furlough that was new to all of us, thrown in at the deep end with things like this. The support and structure that we put in place for our teams We at Wimbledon stayed online, and then we opened as much as we could. We all had different experiences with that, I do know that. But I think whether you closed as an organisation, whether you opened for different parts, whether you turned your school into another sort of business for the duration of lockdowns, I know some schools did, we all had a lot of things that we achieved, including putting the support and structure in for our teams. Again, for us, all these things like new courses, you think, oh, we'll move it online. But that took an incredible amount of effort. And just when you thought you'd got there, you thought, okay, we'll switch online, we'll put a training program in place for staff. You then realise that courses don't just transfer online like that. So you have to rewrite your courses, the way you teach. There's loads and loads of training that comes with that. We did that. Normally, for me, that would take years of sitting, chatting about it. Oh, let's do this next year. Oh, maybe we'll do it the following year. And suddenly we did it in 48 hours. You know, it shows what we're capable of. New ways of doing everything, getting feedback from students, having focus groups, documentation, registration, every single thing was new to us. And I don't think for the most generalisation here, but not the most IT savvy industry in the world. So suddenly, well, we are now, aren't we? My goodness. So wow, what a lot we did. And there's more. What else did we do? I know this is tiny. I'm going to read some of these out for you because this is just to give you an idea. So we learned to work from home. We learned to communicate from home. And again, that sounds so simple, but there was so much to communicating that we had to learn about, how to reach people on Teams, what kind of meetings we had, when did we have meetings, how long were they, what were agendas looking like. So I'm just going to put these up and read them out because I am aware that they're so small here. So we learned to work from home, we learned to communicate from home, we learned to share things with our team, we bonded, we created personal relationships like never before, we gave more of ourselves. And again, I'm talking from my experience, but I'm hoping that some of this sounds familiar to all of you as well. We learned to be aware of our own well-being. Well-being, I think, had become a buzzword with sometimes little substance, especially when we were talking about ourselves. It was very easy to forget ourselves, but we had to lead by example, and we had to look after ourselves for our own sanity. We didn't know where the pandemic was going. We didn't know how long it was going to last. The well-being of others, the huge workloads that we had, again, like never before in my experience. Dealing with uncertainty, dealing with isolation. I don't know about you, but making decisions in isolation in a little room in my house with my puppy was really quite difficult when I was used to the camaraderie of all of my colleagues around. Things that you just wanted to say, should I do this, suddenly had to turn into a meeting. And so things like losing your confidence, finding your confidence again. Learning to readapt again and again. Do you remember that? This seems like a lifetime ago now, but things kept changing. The government kept bringing things in last minute. We'd have discussions with staff. I remember having very personal discussions with staff to find out what the financial situations were like, how long could they last with no money. And then suddenly we heard about furlough. It was very last minute, all of those things. And so we kept adapting. New challenges, we found new opportunities. And I know that most organisations that I've talked to, they have tried so many different things. We looked at things like maths and English, soft skills courses, teacher training online, the prelim opportunity. Some schools I know used some of their rooms for storage space for delivery companies. We rented out to robotics school. We tried all these different things. And we got new students as well through our doors and then through our virtual doors. So again, wow, we learned to come back from home as well. And we're still learning to do that. And we're now learning to upscale. So my goodness, I mean, that in itself, you know, in fact, I think we deserve a round of applause. Everyone, what we did, but we're not finished. Because we went overdrive. Personally, we have all learned so much, and we've made sure that our teams have come with us, the ones that we were able to keep on board with us. And how did we do this? Well, again, look at all of this here. And as I said, this for me was a really cathartic exercise. I suggest that you do try this yourself or with your team. So how did we get everyone on board? How did we learn and develop like never before? We had a common goal. We had to survive. We had to keep the industry going. We had to keep ourselves in jobs. We needed financial security. We didn't want to lose our careers. I mean, I've been in this career for 30 odd years. I know nothing else. Suddenly, tempting as it was to become a lorry driver, I don't think I would have got that job. So I had this drive to keep us going. So with stress, with worry, you know, let's not lie, it was awful. And I'm sure we all went to dark places. But we showed perseverance as an industry, as a school, as individuals, resilience and a belief. Again, what came through for me is what a wonderful industry we work in. And the support and the belief in what we do. The strong foundations, I think, of our individual schools and our support networks. And along with, I mean, I think at this point we're at the English UK conference, but a big, big shout out to English UK and the way that they supported us through this, through everything. The webinars for me were really on point and they were so key, and they helped us through with our development. Positivity, self-awareness, care, attention, these things we gave to the staff as well as ourselves. And this is all about professional development. These things we do normally pre-pandemic, gradually, subtly, suddenly it was overdrive. And these were all feeding into keeping the team going and keeping our schools going. We as managers broke things into manageable chunks for ourselves. We couldn't just get our aim was to survive. We can't just go from what do we do to our aim is to survive. We had to break that down for everyone. Swift decision making. There was no time to ponder. You had to make a decision quickly. And sometimes, again, that moved us out of our comfort zones. We showed leadership. And I think, again, what we learned, and that, you know, maybe I'm speaking for myself, but the vulnerability to give ourselves and maybe tying in a little to bringing our authentic selves. There was no space when you were looking your worst, when you were feeling your worst, to not share this with your colleagues. They knew what you were going through. And I think we saw the human side of our peers, our team members, and the people that we manage as well. And I feel, I don't know about you, but that to me felt as if it's brought us much, much closer together. It's a greater, deeper understanding within the school. Improvisation, can-do approach, and flexibility. Nimble, being nimble. You know, I've never used the word nimble before. I'm not nimble, so I never used that. And suddenly we had to become nimble. So wow, I mean, if I don't say anything else, you know, what an amazing achievement through terrible, terrible times. And this is not, I mean, as I said, we didn't all stay open, we didn't all move online. But as a collective, as an industry, we now see things are coming back and we're jumping into action yet again. We have change fatigue, and yet we're finding more adrenaline to do this as numbers come back. And also the well-being, because what I found is we've learned so much, we've provided incredible levels of development for ourselves and our staff, and it went hand in hand with well-being. So yet again, you know, what did we do? And again, it's tiny, but it's giving you a written record here of what we did. And this is, personally, I'm sure you'll have a lot more things to talk about that you did for your staff. But here we had welfare check-ins, we did short meetings. Asking the right questions, I think, is very important. And for those of you that did any training with Barbara Lewin and other people on mental well-being for your staff, asking the right questions, but also thinking of all the different answers and how you're going to react. You know, some things I'm sure we're really getting thrown at us in terms of dealing with our staff well-being and welfare. all the different calls and chats, it all became a lot more personal. We really got to know our staff. And those of you who have heard me speak before, I talk a lot about getting to know your staff. Well, my goodness, I know them and they know me inside out now. And that we can only now channel positively as we go forward, and because we now know very much so their strengths, their interests, what make them tick. Well-being surveys, buddy systems, all of these. Walking meetings and fresh air, some of you may already do this, but we did this quite a lot. Getting out, having more creative walking meetings, whether it was a 10-minute meeting with a partner around the block in the garden, or when we were doing our strategy meetings, we'd take the whole team up to Wimbledon Common, go for a lovely walk, and really brainstorm there. And it felt so good to be walking, to be moving. Supportive observations, it was about supporting our teams. Short burst training. There was no time for big 2-hour sessions and looking at the theory. Had to get it done, had to be successful in the classroom. There was a space for vulnerability, and again, I guess it ties very much into what you're saying. I think during the pandemic, we were forced, you could see when people were struggling, including ourselves. It's quite interesting. I had some neighbours around last week for a small party, and I've seen them, we've all seen each other through the pandemic, and to see them en masse now that our faces are sitting better again, it made me realise how awful we all looked at times during, our sunken faces, our dread, our stress, and suddenly everyone's kind of joyful again. We gave them some wee wows. And by a wee wow, you may have heard of this, but the wee wows are the little things that are special, that don't cost a lot, but make someone say, wow, Fiona's just done that. Wow, the school's just done this. I did have a box of chocolates at home, and I said to my partner, I'm going to take the box of chocolates in and I'm going to give it to the front row, and that'll be a nice wee wow. And she said, absolutely not, we're having them. So sorry, no wee wows at this talk. And they don't need to cost anything. A wee wow can just be phoning someone in an evening just to have a chat out of the blue. All of those little things that really matter to people. Being transparent, being honest, and about communication. Again, we go to conference after conference talking about communication, but suddenly it really, really mattered like never before. And we need to identify these and carry these things through. How did we communicate? And remembering it's very much two-way, and how did we listen to people? And we all had a clear, common goal. And that to me is really one of the main things here. To survive, I think we had to keep going. ELT could not be a non-entity. It had to keep going for all of our sakes, and for our students and our partners all over the world. Again, I say that about our team, but the extended team, for those of you who work with agents as well, don't we know some of our agents so much better now, so much more personally, those online meetings we have with them. So did it work? Yes. And I think, therefore, if I finish here, which I'm not doing, so don't leave, congratulations to all of us, I think that needs to be said. And as we finish this era and move into this summer where it feels that it's really ramping up, take that time to stop and congratulate yourselves and congratulate your teams, I think, and to identify and to acknowledge what we've all done. So with that in mind, as I said, our stories are all a bit different, but, absolutely fabulous. And why is this important to identify? I think it's a time for reflection. Again, we come to lots of talks, lots of conferences, and we talk about reflective practice. Don't just let that go. It's been too difficult to just move on to the next thing. So it is a time to reflect. It's a time to congratulate ourselves, have confidence in what we do, because all of those things that I've outlined, we do. ELT does that. That is the foundation of who we are. But we really enhanced it. So identify that and tap into it. And take a breath. We can only take a short breath, I think. Summer is round the corner and students are knocking at our doors, fabulous. But take a breath and recognise that we have been doing this. This is who we are. And then take away what we learn from this. And that's what I want to think about for the next part. Sorry, I am going fast because I am conscious of time. But I identified 4 main themes as I saw them. A common driver, a common goal. And with that comes structure, support, reflection and recognition. And I'm going to have a little look and provide some tips as I see it on how to maintain these, because we don't want to wait for another pandemic to take the benefits of this. We want to see what we've done and keep them implemented in our organisations. So with the common driver, the common goal, we need a reason, a purpose, a vision in action. And we talk about vision statements and we talk about mission statements, but we had a real vision here. We could see where we wanted to be, and it wasn't closed forever. We wanted to be thriving and back to this international industry that we work in. So how do we achieve this? Keeping it simple, clear and transparent, and including all stakeholders in your vision. And this is not a time, my limited time does not give me time to look at how we do this, but there is a lot out there, and I know that English UK has also done this recently to re-look at the vision, the direction. There's a lot written about how we actually do this and as a collective team. So involve everyone. Keep it realistic, but aim high. That's the whole idea of a vision. And our vision at the beginning of the pandemic was to survive and to make sure the ELT was there and strong. And then with your vision, it runs through every single thing that we do. And you keep checking that. That's your big, big picture, but you keep checking it. And you keep checking again. You meet, you review regularly. You pull it back to your vision. Your vision will not have a purpose if you're not tying everything back to it. And then you share it, you talk about it, you ensure it runs through all aspects of the organisation. So like your mission statement, like your values, everything we do should be brought back and tied back to our vision, our mission and our values. So I am talking about a vision statement. And if you're not familiar with this, a vision statement is an inspirational statement of what an organisation would like to achieve. I'd like you to just have a quick look at a couple of examples there. I hope everyone online is okay to see that as well. Hi, Belfast. I had to highlight this because I love that our collective vision is our boss. Sounds very street, doesn't it? I love that. I thought, yeah, really nice. So if we don't have one already, or if it's time to revisit, then do look at our collective vision. And the vision is the huge, huge picture. But in order for that to succeed, we need structure and planning. And again, this is nothing new for us, but it is something that we did 200% in overdrive during the pandemic. So let's not keep it going to that, or we will burn out, but let's take away what was successful through the pandemic in terms of the structure. Now, again, for those of you that moved online, I know we at Wimbledon, we put together very quickly a structured training plan that was individualistic for the teachers and also collective, to make sure that we could get them confident and feel supported in as short a space of time as possible. And that kept going, because very often it's a bit like having a first child and a second child, I believe. all of the emphasis goes on the beginning, on the first child, and then you forget the second child. Don't do that. I'm sure you don't. I'm not a parent. I'm sure you don't forget the second child. But give equal attention all the way through. Don't stop. That was good. That was a nice training plan, and then leave people to it. They need that ongoing support, and that is the same now, coming out of a pandemic and going back into upscaling with a lot of new staff, admin and teachers. They need this ongoing drip feeding and checking in a supportive way, rather than just leaving them to their own devices. Now, yes, we did that training plan, that's fine. No, we need to keep going with that. So small goals, quicker rewards, reviewing, monitoring, reflecting, adapting. So how to achieve this? Project planning, sharing, getting feedback, small chunks. And again, we know this comes from our teaching backgrounds as well. Breaking things down into small manageable chunks is how we learn, and it's how we all learn in anything we're doing. Jim Chum did a session for young learners or English UK over the pandemic on project planning. If it's recorded, then I think it's a really useful session to watch. But he talks about planning horizons, and some of you may be very familiar with this. To have short planning horizons, because you don't get any reward until you reach the end of a planning horizon. So it's about short bursts, it's about little sprints in anything that you're doing in your project management. So bringing your team on, but giving them those short bursts, those rewards, those wee wows. Well done, we managed to do this. Now what do we do from there? Rather than setting bigger and longer goals as we may have done in the past. And with that, applying guided discovery principles and also demand high. I think look into our teaching. Maureen McGarvey a few years ago, if you were at the IH conference or seen her at IATEFL, she talked about demand high principles in management. And again, I don't have the space here to go into the details of that, but it is about kind of look at what we've achieved. We would never have thought that. So pushing ourselves that little bit further, that +1, and guiding and bringing those with us on our journey. And delegating, recognizing that we don't need to only be the experts. I'm sure you saw through this, working with your teams, some hidden talents came out, and there were some people that showed that they were experts in areas you would never have guessed. Our juniors operations manager became a whiz at making scones online with students from all over the world. You know, we would never have known that. And being nimble, again, there's that word. Don't be afraid of what comes out of the reviews, but keep on track with your common goal. So then, number 3, we need the support, because we can't be doing all of this without the support and the individualization, as I said. And very much so, I've felt this for a long time. I talk about CPD a lot, as some of you know. Well-being and CPD, that sense of achievement, that encouragement, that learning, I think feeds into our well-being if we're given the correct support and space to grow within our jobs. So how do we provide the support? So taking the time to know your staff, listening to them, asking them the right questions, leading by example, starting with ourselves. Let's not lose that now that we're coming out of the pandemic. Let's be more approachable. Let's give a little more of ourselves, without overdoing it about puppy talks that I may have fallen into. Provide training, but the focused training that we've learned works through this, not just training. But and again, I don't mean to assume that this is what we did, but I think sometimes it'd be, oh, what's next month's training calendar? Is it targeted? Is it focused? Is it moving us on in our vision? Honest and vulnerable conversations, the uncomfortable conversations, knowing people's motivations and their limitations, and finding those hidden talents. How can we play to those strengths without a pandemic being there? and having systems to help us with this. But again, for those of you that have heard me or talked to me before, I like a system, I like structure, as long as we understand that it impacts a person. So that there's a person at the end of every system. Make the system work for people, whether it's our students, our teachers, our staff. And then finally, number 4 is about reflection and recognition. And again, that's about achievement, praise, morale, self-promotion. So taking the time to reflect is, and again, what it takes head time to reflect. It doesn't need to take a lot of time. It can take 5 minutes at the end of a day. It can take a half hour with your staff. It doesn't need to take a long time. We don't need to say, oh, I don't have time to reflect. I'm going into the summer. No time to reflect. There's no 5 minutes. If there's about 5 minutes to make a coffee, if there's half an hour to sit on a bus, if there's half an hour for that Zoom meeting, then there's also time to do this. Reaching short planning horizons, as I said, so reflect and reassess. Are you on track? Is it working? Keeping checking. We had to do that in the last 2 years, more I think than we used to do, so don't lose that. A factor in thinking time. Again, I know that Shirley's online, London School of English, and I know that they very much factor in thinking time away from their desk time to plan and to look at projects, etc. Never take that for granted. We're often expected to make big decisions very quickly, but allow yourself thinking time. Whether that is just if you're having a meeting with a member of staff and you put in your diary that the meeting is from 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock. Well, no, put in your diary that the meeting is from 12:50 till 2:10. And you give yourself those 10 minutes either side. But just factor it in. It's invaluable, and we never put that in our diaries. I'm going to think tomorrow. Put it in your diary. Provide structure, act on the findings. So again, reflection is only useful if you then look at what comes out of that and how you build upon it. Reflecting for the sake of reflecting may make you feel good, may not make you feel good, but in order for it to be effective, you need to build upon it. And then introduce tools to raise awareness of achievements and the impact and the morale on staff. And I've highlighted these two because, again, I'm going to just pull them out and share with you a couple of things that we found successful. But it's a whirlwind of ideas here. So I am around for the day. These slides will be available. And as you know, I love to chat. If anyone drops me an email and wants me to elaborate, I'll easily pick up the phone. We can have a chat about any of these. But the first point here, and I'm talking about a well-being approach for all to CPD. So take time to reflect, to stop, to catch your collective breath, come up for air and recharge. And some of the things that we introduced that we found worked, and you may be doing a lot of these as well. The walking meetings that I mentioned, no screen meetings, very difficult sometimes, because suddenly we've gone from these Luddites of IT to carrying a laptop and an iPad and 2 phones to every single meeting we go to. I mean, what on earth are we thinking? Put them all down, write a couple of notes on a piece of paper and talk to the people in the meeting. And don't sneak at your emails either. Standing meetings, we have introduced a lot of these. Again, I think we're maybe a bit late to the game, but just having that different energy of standing up. Giving a time to a meeting that doesn't need to be a rounded number. We often say that a meeting, oh, we'll do 1 to 2 for a meeting. Well, we never do 1 to 2 because that's lunchtime. 2 to 3 for a meeting. No, why not 2 until 2:25? Do we really think it's going to take an hour? All that wasted time. Keep those meetings short and focused. Bringing in the wee wows. Buddy system. We did this for as teachers. You would do your peer system, or we have guardian angels for new members of staff, and it's an older member of staff, a long-term member of staff working together to support. But these buddies, for us during the pandemic, and I know for a lot of you, they had guidelines and a purpose to support the well-being of colleagues. keep those going developmentally and also from a well-being point of view. Some really nice relationships and friendships were built up through that. Breathing exercise, I'm not going to read all of these now. Introduce tools to raise awareness of achievements. I can feel Siobhan getting fidgety. At the end of my slides, I do have a tool that really invites people to look holistically at their energies and how they could change them, and to reflect upon their achievements and where they put all of the different skills and energies. Some of you will have heard me talking about this before. It is at the end if anyone is interested or if you want to ask me. So I am finishing with, these are finishing slides now. Each organisation is different. I'll let you have a little read at these, just to sum up. So you're basically, what I'm inviting you to do is to do what I've just done with your staff and really look at what you've done and how you build on that. Because as I said, no matter your journey, whether you were closed, whether you were online, we all dealt with so many aspects in the last 2 years of dealing with staff in such a major crisis. Congratulations to us. Moving forward has been challenging, but a lot has come out of it, and we mustn't forget that. Reflect on what we've all achieved and have a common bigger picture. And just a couple of things to finish. Here's my school. I love it. I've been there 21 years now, so I could not become a lorry driver. I could barely drive to school. When supported well, something I believe CPD helps us find our professional comfort zone in turbulent times. Because I was thinking here, that's what we needed actually. During this time, we needed our comfort zone, because we needed the comfort of those around us, and we needed to feel the safety and security and the familiarity of where we could find it, because everything else was moving us out of our comfort zones. So it's not always a negative here. And when we have a common goal, I really saw through this that everyone benefits, everyone's on board. And when everything becomes too overwhelming, go for a walk with your dogs or come and meet mine. I'm finished. That's me done for the day. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to everyone online.